I'm Cynthia Nunes, and I'm currently pursuing a master's degree in design under guidance of Dr. Priscila Arantes at Universidade em Morumbi, in São Paulo, Brazil. Today, I'm going to share with you part of my research in Afrofuturism, design, and visual arts. My research begins with a review of the silences in the hegemonical histories about the narratives of people and nations who were subjected to colonial subjugation. This revisionist effort emerges at the beginning of the 20th century, with anti-colonial revolutions questioning the domination of the global north. For Rufino, this space for revision for the decolonization of narratives is presented under the name of encruzilhada, or crossroads in English. The encruzilhada comprehends the various potentialities of the Orisha Eshu, a deity of Yoruba mythology. In fact, the greeting which I started my speech today is a greeting, an oriki in Yoruba, to Eshu. Eshu is the deity of communication, responsible therefore for all signs, verbals and non-verbals. And it is the Orisha of pets that are open, closed, that are crossroads itself. And it is the guardian of the Ashe, the vital energy, that is presented in every form of life in throughout the nature. Orisha, Eshu is the Orisha who questions the absolute, who messes up with what is believed to be the truth in order to reconstruct, to rebuild a new and different possibility of narrative. In this way, since the encruzilhada is the space of Eshu, it is a space that allows the crossing of two possibilities of knowledge. First, this white, European, straight and Christian official knowledge, which was imposed by colonialism and imperialism. And second, the knowledge produced as deviations from the colonial impositions, the knowledge who have suffered several violent attempts of destruction. This process, for Rufino, is called cruzo, or cross in English. And it does not consider one of those knowledges more important than the other. On the contrary, the cruzo is exactly about consider all knowledge relevant by not ignoring or trying to exclude none of them, but combining. The encruzilhada, therefore, is the refusal of the absolute impositions and propositions. And Eshu, the Orisha, is the movement of that encruzilhada that works through the cruzo. In addition to this recognition of knowledges and ways of life of people who have suffered numerous processes of inferiority and over the centuries through the colonial and modern projects, it is necessary to insert this erasure knowledge in the cultural elements of today, and more than that, and into the conceptions that we have today about the future. And it is based in this assumption, taking into consideration the experience of Afro-diasporical peoples, that the Afrofuturism emerges. Afrofuturism is, to put in a more general way, a movement, a global aesthetic movement that unites arts, literature, academic studies, music, films, and in my perspective, it is a possibility of design. Afrofuturism aims to connect the dilemmas of the African diaspora, like racism, violence, and social inequalities, to the technological innovations, which are commonly unavailable to the descendants of those who were enslaved in the coloniality. A problem that exists exactly because the colonial modern project was responsible for the animalization of the Black people. And as a result of that, today their descendants construct the poorest and more alienated extracts of our society. The Afrofuturistic goal is to establish possible scenarios for the future, scenarios that contemplate the presence and, more than that, the protagonism of Black people, which are often left out in the mainstream projections of the future in art in general that are commonly made by white people, and talks to white people with white people protagonists. In order to achieve this goal, Afrofuturism breaks with the Western linear chronology and starts to conceive time in a cyclical way, interweaving past, present, and future in a single composition. This new temporal interpretation of time is also very important to Eshu, since in a Yoruba myth, Eshu killed a bird yesterday with a stone that he threw today, deconstructing as well this idea of linear chronology. Afrofuturism weaves a web of this historical and cultural retaking of African memory with issues about the present of Black people, with the purpose of creating a possible and positive future, since a dystopic reality is already the reality for most of Black people around the world, because of the problems they face since their ancestors were enslaved. To bring an example of what was presented, I choose the work of visual artist Luiz Gustavo Nostalgia, and nostalgia is literally nostalgia in English, from Rio de Janeiro. Luiz Gustavo works on the frontiers of visual arts and design, and through the collage process, which is present in African ancient arts, and it was appropriated by Cubism when Picasso made this approximation with the African arts. And Luiz Gustavo dismantles existing images and rearranges them into new compositions in order to produce a new meaning for these already existing images. His work evokes the idea of this encruzilhada cruzo, in other words, the cruzo that shows up through Eshu and its potentialities. From the central principle of collage composition, this idea of rearranging, and also in the widespread rearrangement of our ways of lives and understanding of society, which are basic to the Afrofuturistic conception of the world. One seems impossible to conceive a better future for Black people without facing the problems that are presented today, and by facing the racial problems of our societies, we are invited to construct alternative scenarios. In this cruzo, he celebrates African motives, cultures, and spirituality, combining in his compositions the aesthetics of future that already are established in popular imagination, such as galaxies, bright colors, illuminations, robotic elements, etc. This is Elegba, mediator of the future. Elegba is one of the Eshu's titles that positions him as Lord of the magical power of the Ashed that I explained later, and where the principles of potentials and creativity are located. In this work, the artist brings this figure of an imposing Black man, which is an unusual representation in Western art, over a combination of intergalactic backgrounds, positioning Eshu in his many nuances, including this domain of communications, possibilities of changing the way the things are presented in any spatial, temporal, or bodily circumstance, like the robotic arm it presents. This one is Afronaut, God's Astronauts, which references the Portuguese title of Chariot of the Gods, a book by Eric van den Eycken, which theorizes about the possibility of technological advances in ancient civilizations has been aided by contact with extraterrestrials. Despite the controversies about the book, which considered den Eycken's vision as racist because it considered African civilizations incapable of technological feats, the book inspired 100 of cultural productions, including the song Errado Humano Est by Black Brazilian artist Jorge Ben, who asks where our impulse to probe space come from. Luiz Gustavo, more inspired by George Ben than den Eycken, conceptualizes through his collage this Black woman as an astronaut, therefore an Afronaut, traveling in space with her divinity present, demonstrated through the halo behind her head. It is in this cruise in two dimensions, the collage itself and the Afrofuturistic collage concept, that through his designs, Luiz Gustavo is able to visually produce an idea of the future and resistance that Black people exist as protagonists and have their past, cultures, and roots celebrated, despite the countless efforts involved by colonialism, by imperialism, and modernity for its erasure. Well, this is my part of my research. Thank you for listening, and ashe to all of you.